I wanted to kind of wrap up this concept that we've been doing over the last couple of days about when I was asking a question, and then it was really about a concept, right? What was the question I've been asking? Anybody remember? It's 3 little words. Do you care? That really, I want to kind of share something with you about these last 3 weeks. These last 3 weeks were unlike some series that pastors might plan that's kind of been planned out months ahead or weeks ahead or a few days ahead. This one, I feel like God's been kind of fumbling me through it. And, no end in sight. And, actually, we're going to conclude this concept today. But as, the last 3 weeks, I've been kind of grinding and going through it myself. And really the one question that kept on mulling over was that one, do you care? And it was based on what I read in my quiet time with God in Jeremiah, where it struck me so much, where God was just putting it on his people, explaining to them their current condition and saying, do you care what's going on in your life? Do you care that because of you, this is everything that's happening, all the things that you're complaining about, all the things that you're worried about, all the things that you're dealing with and struggling with? It's not because of me. Do you care of the true reason? And what hit me hard was that he had pretty much in Jeremiah said, you don't care. You don't care. You really don't. And this is the one verse that I wanted to read to you. Jeremiah 6:16. This is the one that we're going to hang out with today. This is what the Lord said to his people. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it. And you will find rest for your souls. He's being confident, not that you might, he's saying you will find rest for your souls. But you said, we will not walk in it. And so here, there's the big but there. You said, we will not walk in it. Here's God offering and saying, look, I got every answer that you're looking for, and you could care less. You don't care that I have it. You don't care that I care for you. That's kind of what he's putting it on them. And there's a few things that I wanted to ask you again to think about when it comes to that question, do you care? And remember, in Jeremiah 6, he just finished talking to his people. He just finished acknowledging his people first, saying, look, you guys, everything that you love is corrupting you, and it's destroying you, and it's pulling you away from me, and you love it. And then after that, after he talks about his people, he talks about how man's heart, you can't trust it. Man's heart is full of deceit. You can't trust yourself to judge anything for yourself, because you're going to lead yourself astray. And so he's talking about man. He's talking about the heart. And then he starts yelling at the king. And that's one that we talked about a couple weeks ago, where King Jehoiakim, he was all about himself, right? You remember some of those concepts, what he was doing, and why God was yelling at him? Primarily, he was yelling at him because he was living for himself. If you missed that Me Church video, we'll play it again next week. But he was all about himself, and he could care less of his people that God chose him to lead and serve. Actually, he yelled at him because he was building his kingdom and expanding his palaces on top of the backs of his people. He wouldn't pay them. He would just mistreat them. He would abuse them and use them for his purposes. And really, it was the opposite. He was supposed to be used for God, for God's purposes, to help his people. And he turned it around. He said, no, I'm going to use you to serve me for my purposes. Forget God. That was his idea. And the sad thing is that, the people became corrupted. They allowed leaders to become corrupted, and the leaders led them farther away from God. The leaders corrupted them even more, and it just became this vicious cycle. And the whole time, they didn't care. They could care less. They just defiantly said, no, we don't need you. We got this. Obviously, we got this. Yet there was all full of hopelessness. And so here's the question that we've been thinking about. I'm going to read something here. Do you care? Do you care to know God? Because that was their problem. They could care less about who God was and what he wanted. But I'm going to put it on you. Are you like them? Do you care to know God? Do you care to follow him in your own life? Our people, especially here, in America, as a whole, we can say that it's a safe bet to say there's a lot of us that have completely rejected God's paths. And we've corrupted ourselves and fallen in love with those things that are corrupting us. Anything, I guarantee you, any of the stuff that we could say, look, there's a problem in our life right here, or there's a problem in our society right here, I guarantee you we can tie that to some kind of love, and a self-love, of a selfish love. I guarantee it. The things that we're falling in love with are causing us to backslide, or as a nation in so many areas. And this was God's complaint of the people in the book of Jeremiah. And it could be easily could be our complaint in our culture too. That's why we, like the songs we were singing, we have to submit as individuals. We must submit to God's authority. We must submit to God's law, looking at things through His eyes, not our own. You know, we are sons and daughters first. We are sons and daughters of the living God before anything else, before our nationality, before our economic status, social status, race, gender, any of that stuff. We have to recognize, where is our identity in? It's in the fact that we are sons and daughters of God. That's where our identity needs to start. You know, later, what I've been sharing in Jeremiah, we see that after the people, right, corrupting themselves, their spiritual leaders and civil leaders became corrupted. And today, I could see God complaining. And the same way He was complaining to Jehoiakim and the priests, I could see Him complaining a little bit. You know, we've seen a lot of spiritual and non-religious leaders build their kingdom, right, on the backs of uninformed people that don't know God. And so anybody, Joe Schmo, can come up with some random religion and have a bunch of people follow him. Like, I have family that had followed this guy in Miami that claimed himself to be first Paul, then Jesus, then the Antichrist and the beast at the same time, and had his people get 666 tattoos on themselves and saying it was all cool. And so, and this guy's banking, rolling in money. Ridiculous. And how just people he has followers all around the world. Now, I think he's, Jesus is MIA right now because the IRS is after him. So, Jesus can't handle the IRS. It's ridiculous how you would think, some of that sounds nuts, but then it's crazy to see how so many people could be so willing to just give so much, their life and their time and their emotions. I mean, when we sing to God, they sing to Him. Because they think He's God, literally. And so all their songs are about Him and to Him. And it's like, wow, I can't believe that people just do that. And not every, obviously, religion can be a figure like that. It could just be individuals, people. You know, our heroes, our musicians, actors. Like, we just devote so much attention or love, and we reflect. You know, really the easiest thing to know, what do you worship? It's what are you reflecting? You reflect what you worship. And so ultimately, and if we worship Jesus, then we should reflect Jesus, ultimately, above all things. So, we can see that in our society today. So many people just following just really silly things. Or even like a lot of the questions that we were talking about, whether it be the evolution or whether it be the, especially that one, where when you really think, it's hard to pinpoint things together, but people wholeheartedly give their lives over and their everything over to that. You know, we have seen politicians really build their kingdoms and their careers on the backs of dead babies, to be honest. We have politicians that have built their careers on the backs of dead babies. Babies that have been aborted. Built their kingdoms and built their careers telling people that you can't do anything without me, you need me. That's not something that God would honor. You know, we see people, even of all, we see race hustlers of all kind of races build their kingdoms on the back of their own people that they say they fight for, of all kinds, whatever color. You know, we see I could see media companies building their kingdom on the backs of ignorant people that just don't have time or don't want to follow everything, yet push certain stories that feed a certain narrative to get their opinion across. That's unethical to me, and it's sad. Because there's so many things that are so newsworthy that could be more uniting than a lot of the stuff that's kind of put out there. You know? I'm pretty sure if you watch the news, you would probably see the same thing over and over again for about a week or two. They find one thing and then everybody's talking about it over and over and over and over and over again. And then there's so many other things that go unnoticed, good and bad, that it all should matter to us. Like, there's more in our lives going on that, not that if something is important, it's important, but there's so many other things. So many other things. Like in the sad part. I know, everybody's been on one trial for a while, but there's so many other things that have at the same time have fallen through the cracks. Like a little boy named Daryl Green. Some of you guys might have heard him. Daryl Green was a 17-year-old, shot and killed. I think he was from Chicago. Shot and killed, 17, because he chose not to join the gang at his school. Shot and killed, just for that. No other reason, because he didn't want to join the gang, 17 years old. dead. Yet have you heard of Darrell Green? Have you heard of Darrell Green? No. Some people haven't. Some people have. Does some of you guys might not have know who Kermit Gosnell is. Some of you guys know, some of you guys might not. He had during the, I can't remember which trial, I think it was the same trial, he was also convicted of having this kind of like, and in Houston had something as well, a house of horrors, where they would literally, meaning with abortions, and they would have abortions after the babies would be born, and then they would still abort them, and they were late term. And they were doing all these illegal things. I mean, and supposedly, I mean, he had been working for 40 years like this. And thousands of kids that he has killed in very gruesome ways. Yet, it never really got any attention. Or the fact that in 2000... Body parts. Oh yeah, I don't even want to go there. Because I know some people might get squirmish, so I don't even want to go there. Trust me, it can get really nasty. But that should have gotten a lot of attention when it comes to abortion rights and just abortion in general. You know, like so many crazy statistics that in 2008, I saw a tweet from a friend, C. O'Brien. He tweeted... he follows me, so I'm his friend. I have his phone number. He tweeted that the fact in 2008 more black babies were aborted in New York City than born. Like that's crazy to think of, regardless of the color. I don't care. If you got more babies that you're aborting than being born, that's an issue. Imagine you're going backwards. You're going backwards. Or the fact that in 2012 we've lost more young people in 2012 related to gang violence in Chicago than we've had soldiers lost in Afghanistan. Did you know that? But which one you might hear? You might hear the Afghanistan one, but you don't know that in Chicago we've lost more, I think almost double the amount of kids around 17, 18, 20 related especially to gang violence and just in the streets. More than the soldiers in Afghanistan. That should matter. That should matter. Or the fact that, talking about profiling, that, certain groups for their political views were profiled and targeted by the IRS. And that got hardly no attention from certain people compared to others. If one matters, they all should, because they're all related. All of them are related, and they all matter to us. Or even the positive side, the stories that bring us together. There was a boy named Tamar Boggs. He was a hero, where he noticed and saw something going down. A man abducted a little girl and got in the car, took off, and Tamar, and I believe a friend of his, noticed it and went after him. I believe, was he 17 as well, or a little younger? Some of you guys might know. 15. And if you look at him, 15, little skinny boy, 15, got on his bike, and went after this guy in the car. No fear, and just went after him. And the guy so freaked out that somebody noticed him, panicked, stopped at the street or whatever, and pushed the little girl out and ran. They saved that little girl's life. It was beautiful. And that's, it's just, when you see something happening, you got engaged, and, who knows what that guy could have, who knows what that guy could have had or what that guy could have done, but he saw something and he got it right. That's a beautiful story. By the way, it was, I'm not even mentioning race because it shouldn't matter. That's a beautiful story regardless. Regardless of who did what, even though it was mixed with, you had a bunch of different races mixed in there. I'm not going to say who, because it shouldn't matter. That's a beautiful story of acknowledging certain heroes that should get attention, and say, look at young men. This is a good role model for you. Or a Georgia mom that saved her family. That a man came into their house and broke into their house, and she was able to save her family by. She had a firearm, and she was able to protect these individuals. And you can count countless of stories. One, I heard of a 10-year-old that I couldn't find the story again to be specific, but I know it's true, where a man was about to rape the mother, and the 10-year-old was able to sneak out. They had already bum rushed. 3 men bum rushed the house, took down dad, took down a few, I think another brother or sister, so got mom and was about to go take her to the room and rape her. And there was the little boy, 10-year-old, waiting. And, shot one guy, they were able to leave, and they all took off running. He saved his mom, he saved his whole family. And so, it's cool to just to see there's so many other things that can be, unifying and that celebrates a lot of culture. Yet, so a lot of these people, a lot of what we get pushed, they're bottom feeders, and it's sad because there's so many good things. Yet if you get your news just from like Facebook and stuff like that, that's all bottom feeding stuff. They highlight all of like the 1%, the 2% of us that are crazy or lame or weird, And then we assume that it's everybody. Like, did you hear the Mark Anthony thing? Oh, everybody was yelling at Mark Anthony because, what's this Mexican doing singing the national anthem at the All-Star game, at the baseball All-Star game? What was it? God bless America. It's like, what's this Mexican doing here? What kind of, what we've fallen off as a country. Okay, I guarantee you the majority of baseball fans, if they really believe that, they're idiots, because I guarantee you their favorite team is riddled with Hispanics, okay? And so, I guarantee, and that I don't believe in. I would see, a friend posted that, and it was on the Hispanic news, and it was on the radio, whatever. But then I was like, that's a small minority. I mean, do you know anyone that would be like that? Hardly. I don't know anyone. And so it's a lot of these bottom feeder stuff that just promote this one thing. And so now I say all those things for a reason. Because do you care? A lot of us, look, we just want to live our lives, man. We just want to do what we got to do, honor God, and that's it. And we don't have time to it's exhausting to follow the news. It's exhausting to be on top of everything. You don't have the time. Too much is going on. And it's a shame. It's a shame that, in the little time that we get, you have to be careful. And I want to encourage you with that because, again, what the leaders did, if we corrupt ourselves, our leaders become corrupted, and the leaders then corrupt us even more and lead us farther down. That's a lot of what I see, and that's what, as a warning to you, I want to acknowledge. But you know what? We're so bombarded with so many choices, so many issues, and it can easily be overwhelming. Anyone with me? It can be overwhelming. It's exhausting. It's like, why do we have to be here? Why do we have to do this? And you know what? The first question that God was telling his people, stand at the crossroads and look. He was telling them, no, look, face your reality. Because they want to ignore it. They didn't want to see, the people of Israel didn't want to see what was going on. They didn't want to come to grips with what was going on. And God is telling them, no, stand here, look at the crossroads, the choice that you're making. You're on this path, I'm over here, going this way. And look. Look what you're doing. Look at the path you're leading you. Look at mine. Face your reality. Face your reality. There's so many things that can, with all the issues that, especially if things get pushed, we can, if you've been watching the news, you might feel like you've been in this crazy tailspin for weeks now. And really, and I want to say something, anything that you might watch or anything that people care about, I don't believe that, stuff that's been out lately is they say, well, what we're dealing with right now as a nation, we're at a crossroads, and we have a race issue, and some would say we have a profiling issue, some people have a gun violence issue, some people say we have a self-defense issue, and really there's one common denominator with all of that. Man is in every single one of them. And so we don't have an issue with those things. What do we have an issue with? We have an issue with us. We have an issue with us, and not just us. We have an issue with what God calls the flesh. You know what the flesh is? Flesh is when God would talk to his people. Flesh is the part of us that loves sin, that produces sin, that just wants to be involved in everything that is anti-God. Okay, I'm pretty sure you know the feeling. All right? We don't have to go and list in confessionals now. But I'm pretty sure you know the feeling. It's that part of you that just, for whatever reason, loves to do good and loves to do bad and doesn't want to do good.
It's the carnal.
That's our carnal part. That's flesh. God would, when he would call man, he would call him with, he would acknowledge him, obviously something special. But when men in the Bible became so corrupted, he didn't even call him man. It was flesh. So it was this below human status that we lowered ourselves to be almost animal-like. In essence, what the unique things about us are that God placed in his spirit are gone. What we have is a flesh issue in anything that you can talk about. And really, flesh is what we are without God. And it becomes less human. And there's no logic to it. There's no logic to it. We just do stupid things for no reason. And we know that they're stupid, yet do we stop? No, we continue on. And, I know I got this issue. I know this is bad for me. Okay, well, when are you going to stop doing it? I don't know. And so there's no logic there. No logic whatsoever. We want to avoid reality. God is telling his people, face your reality. Face the consequences of your choices. I have my little boy, Josue. Josue, my 4-year-old, he's real quick. Real quick. He loves to throw the blame on everybody else but himself right now. And now my medium one, Josiah, my middle one, has 2 new catchphrases. The old one did it, and the young one spilled it. Okay? Those are his 2 new catchphrases. He goes, Howie did it, or JJ spilled it. That's Josiah's 2 new phrases now. He's blaming it on everyone. So look how young we are That's automatically. You don't have to teach someone to do that. We're naturally without God. We want to point the finger at everyone else but ourselves. And Josue was like that too. We just are trying to get the older two sleeping in the same room together in different big boy beds. And what happens? Jump, jump, jump on the same bed, back and forth and go in here, right? And so, we have to spank them and do whatever and teach them, no, stay in your bed, here's where you are. And so I hear this giggling, I'm like, all right, here we go. So I'm ready to go, all right, got the paddle, I open the door, and quick, because I want to, try to surprise them. I just go, blah, and open the door. And there they are, sitting in the bed, facing each other, Indian style, and they have like the blanket around both of them. It was kind of adorable to see. It was a blanket, around both of them, and they're just giggling and talking and laughing. But the second, this is quick, my 4-year-old is, I went boom, and I was like, what are you, and before I finished saying, what are you doing, the old one was saying, we're just praying to Jesus. So now, look at how he put me in this corner. Now look how he put me in. He wasn't, obviously, but look how he put me in this corner. So now, I'm going to spank you for talking to Jesus? He put me in a tight spot. He is slick. He put me in a tight spot. But again, why did he say that? Because he knew what was coming. Right? He knew that was coming, and he wanted to avoid that. So he was like, we're just praying to Jesus. Nothing. Or his new thing is, he'll say, like, if he does something like, he's running in the house and just, let's say, bowls over my, 9-month-old, and we'll say, Josue, what are you? No, nothing. I'm just playing. That's just, no, nothing. It's nothing. I'm just playing. Of course, that's why he was like, you're just playing. Exactly. And so, but in his mind, he's trying to say, no, not a big deal. It's okay. It's no big deal. I'm just playing around. I'm a kid. I'm playing. And so that's what we are. We don't grow out of that. We're still like that. Well, we want to acknowledge everything else and point the finger and not acknowledge that it's us. And we don't want to face our consequences. And God is telling his people, and I'm relating it to you. Do you care enough to face your reality personally? Do you care to face the reality that America is going through? Some people don't want to know bad news because they don't. Why? Because it might have to force you to change or force you to get involved. And who wants to do that, right? So face your reality. Because outside of God, we're lost. And that is a reality. Outside of God, we're lost. Face it. The next thing, what did God say? Stand at the crossroads and look. And then he said, ask. Ask me. Ask for the ancient path. Where's the good way and walk in it? He says, ask me for directions. I'll show you where to go. Anybody here? I don't ask for directions. Anybody? You? Right? Did you know that I actually looked up that I think in the UK they did a study that in the UK men spend in their lifetime $3,000 more on gas than women because they don't want to ask for directions. And so in their lifetime they'll waste $3,000. And why? Why don't we want, as men or anyone that doesn't want to ask for directions, why don't they? Right? A little bit of pride. A little bit of, even think of the logic, right? Think of the logic when we're lost. And I'm pretty sure some of us have done it. Okay, you're lost. You know you're lost and you're probably frustrated or scared or angry that you're lost because now you're late. And so what do we do? Keep going. Hold on, think about that for a second. Yeah. You know you're lost. And so what do? Get more lost. And can still keep going. That's what we do. We're as human beings that might be driving, but again, men and women do it. We know that we're lost, or we know that we have something and we're not on the right path. Yet what do we stop to ask for directions? No, we just keep on going. That's what the people were doing. They were so lost and they knew everything was falling apart around them. And God's saying, ask me for directions. And they were saying, no, we're good. Okay, yeah. No, you're not. You need help. A lot of us, we're so emotional that we have emotional reactions and we jump to conclusions before facts fall in or before we really, again, i.e. media, jump to conclusions with emotions. You have to be careful with in anything. Humility is necessary to recognize that we don't have the answers and somebody else does. You have to get to that point. Asking for directions means that I don't know it and I got to find someone that does. So, he says, face your reality. Look at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient path, the good way. And then he says, walk in it. So not only does he give you directions, then what does he expect you to do after that? Follow those directions, right? I'm going to give you directions. Ask me, I'll give them to you. And then follow them. We want to play by our own rules. We've been talking about the word justice and righteousness. Men outside of God, we want to seek our own justice and our own righteousness according to what we think and believe. And we'll never find it because everybody will define it differently. Everybody will define those two words differently and we'll never come to the conclusion. We never will. We'll never agree outside of it if we're left to ourselves. But you know what the thing about the directions? Anyone ever been lost? Anyone ever had to stop for directions? They got directions. Okay? Now, most of us have. Now think about it. When you got those directions, now you have them. To follow them means that you're going to trust this individual that he's not going to lead you into somewhere that you're not supposed to go. Am I right on that? Mm-hmm. If somebody gives you directions and you want to find and you follow them, you're technically putting faith in this individual that where you're leading me, I'm going to trust that it's where I need to be. You're not going to set me up, in this back alley and there's your buddies waiting to jack me, okay? Right? You have to. There is that, and so, but that's faith. You don't know. You have to put your faith in the directions that were given to you are the right ones, and you follow them. Not second guess them or second doubt them, and then turn your own way and then get lost again. That's really faith. But you know what? A lot of times we don't want to follow directions because we might have been hurt from a past situation. Sometimes God will give us directions, but maybe we don't want to follow them because last time I trusted somebody, I got hurt. So God, will you hurt me too? People deal with that. And they have to know that, no, God's different. So again, what is God telling his people to do? Stand and look. Face your reality. Ask me for directions. Follow directions. Do you care enough to follow directions? Do you care enough to follow God's plan for your life? Put that on you. And then last one, what is the result? If you follow God's directions, what are we going to find? Peace. Tell me that really, that's not what people want. To be left alone. To not have to worry. To not have to worry about where you're going to walk or what somebody's going to come and do to you or jump up or I don't know. There's 1,000 things we could talk about. Okay? Who wants to live like that? Everyone wants to find peace. But you know what? What's sad is by doing things our way, we're never going to find it. By doing things our way, we're never going to find peace. We think that we are and we don't. And then when we think we found it, honestly, you've fooled yourself and you've settled for scraps. Yeah. You've settled for nothing. And you're so happy with your nothing that you think that there's nothing better than this. And I don't need anything else. I'm happy. Yet you're happy instead whether God has a banquet table full of food for you and you're happy just with the crumbs on the floor. But you don't realize that they're crumbs and you don't realize that there's more because you haven't trusted God completely yet. You know what the flesh is? That's why I said you'll never find peace on your own. Because our flesh, the part outside of God, always is never satisfied. I want to say is never satisfied. It always wants one more hit. Just one more hit. One more drink. One more hookup. One more pull on the lever. One more anything you can think of. One more bowl of food. That, I don't know. Some people find comfort in that too. That's the flesh. You ever feel like that before? Oh, it's just one more time. What's it going to hurt? One more time. Just one more. I can handle it. Just one more. But the one more never is enough. The one more becomes, wait, it's just one more. And then those, come on now. One more. Right? That's our flesh. That is the devil himself. It's just, he promises us hope and peace. And we trust him with a little. And when we don't find him, he says, no, just keep on this way. A little more. You're almost there. And we'll never find it. Well, actually, he leads us away from true peace. That's flesh. You can't find peace this way. You cannot find peace this way. But, right? Can I put that verse up? You saw that big butt? Yeah, there was a big booty in that verse. Y'all caught it? Big butt. At the very end, God promised all these things. Actually, at the first one, can you go to Jeremiah 6:16? Jeremiah 6:16. He says all these beautiful things, but there's a big butt that got in the way. Who's the butt? What's the butt?
You.
Yeah, it was us. Our own booty got it got in the way. It says but all these things for you, but you say that we will not walk in it. It's like, no, God, we're okay. We got it. We're falling out of control. Our society's collapsing. The economy's in ridiculous nonsense. Yeah, the king's treating us like slaves. And around this time too, they were doing a lot of kid sacrifices. I mean, it was just disgusting. The whole nation's collapsing. Nah, God, we got this. It's under control. We're good. Okay. Anybody ever had to hydroplane before? Okay, if you know what hydroplaning is, when you lose control and you're skidding on water.
Back
Okay?
in the old days when tires weren't that good, it was quite common.
What?
Oh, yeah.
I've never really had to deal with that. But hydroplaning is when you're driving and let's say it's you're going too fast or whatever, and then you're just skidding instead of braking. Your tires aren't even on the water; you're just gliding on water, and you're just going. If you've ever been in a situation, I'm pretty sure it could be scary. But with that has something that I wanted to bring a concept to you guys. I want you to think about this because when we refuse to put God in control. And we think that, no, we got in control. No, really, our lives are out of control. When we refuse because we want to be in control, the result is an out-of-control life. And in hydroplaning, if you ever lose control of the car, what's the one thing you're never supposed to do? Anybody? Driver's ed. What aren't you not supposed to do? Oh my gosh, okay, we're going to save some lives here. Okay, we got to save some lives. Huh?
You don't overreact.
Okay, one thing, you don't overreact. If you're losing, which is contrary to our logic, right? Okay. What's the natural tendency if your car is doing this? To overreact in anything, right? Oh my God! Right? That's probably what you want to do. And then what's the one thing not to do? Hit the brakes. Again, our logic tells us I'm out of control and I need to do something, right? I need to do something or oversteer, right? If I'm going this way, I should go this way, right? Logically, if I'm moving, I should stop. All right? Our logic. That's what we do. Right? If we're out of control, we try to control it. But what's the one thing on hydroplaning, really? It's to
gradually slow down.
Slowly. And you have to let go, in essence. You have to let the car go. And you let it slowly figure it out and slowly. And, guide it that way. You cannot be in control because you're not in control. That's us. When your life is out of control and you're just trying to do everything, you make it worse. We make it worse. Well, we have to let go and trust God to straighten it out for you. That's really where we have to be. And that's where God is telling his people, you guys are spinning out of control. Look. Okay, look what's happening to you. I can help you. And then they said, no, we got it. No, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We don't need you. Jesus actually said this. This is Jeremiah. And a couple hundred years later, God himself comes physically, because obviously, we didn't get it the first time. So he physically came down and reiterated this. Let me show you in Matthew 7, and we're going to wrap up with this. Listen to what Jesus said. Jesus starts talking in Matthew 7. He says, first off, he says, look, don't judge people. Don't judge in a way, and by the way, not just judge because you have to look at the conditions. Jesus said, don't judge people in a way that acknowledges other people's faults without wanting to acknowledge your own. Don't judge like that. You can't say it's your fault without being honest and saying, hey, am I contributing here in any way? So he says here, look, don't judge like that. Understand that you have an issue. That's reality. Then he says, ask, seek, and knock. Find the way, and I'll show you the way. That's what Jesus is telling his people. Then he starts talking about a narrow gate, a path. Says, there's a narrow way that few find, and there's a wide road that a lot of people take because it's easy, it's paved out. No one wants to do the hard stuff. And then he starts talking about true and false prophets and say, look, there's some good ones out there, but there's some other ones you got to be careful with. You have to follow my directions. And then he talks about the foolish and wise builders, saying, the one that followed my instructions, believed in me, lived. And the one that tried to do things his way did not. This is Jeremiah 6:1-6 in Matthew 7, where he's saying, look at the crossroads, look at your reality, look at you. Because when he says don't judge, he's really telling his people, look, you have to come to reality with who you are. You got some issues. Don't be pointing the finger at everybody else. Ask, show me the way. Ask me for directions, and I will show you the ancient path, the narrow road. And you will find peace when you follow and obey me, and you give your life to me. You know what? That ancient path that God's talking about is not a what, it's a who. That ancient path is God himself. Jesus said, I am the way. I am that path. I am the truth. I am the life. I am what would guide you. I am the path itself. You stick with me and we'll get it through. You stick with me and I'll get you through. And that path is paved in love. Love is that path. In 1 Corinthians 13 it says, love is patient. So we're talking about overreacting and being impulsive. We have to be careful not to be that way. Because God, and the beautiful thing is God is not impatient with us. How many would take a quick second and thank God for that? That thank you that you don't overreact when I do something. And that you don't emotionally respond when I might reject you. That you're calm and you're patient with me. I thank God that He's patient with me all the time because I don't get everything right the first time. Love is kind. The path is being kind. God is kind. Isn't it nice to be able to say, thank you, Lord, for being kind to me, when I'm not usually sometimes kind to people, and I struggle with that. Love is not jealous. Love isn't jealous, meaning, and jealous to the point that, oh, I want what you have, and if I can't have it, you can't. No. God says, He's jealous. He wants our love, but He's not going to, manipulate. He'll let us choose and follow our own way. Love doesn't brag. It's not arrogant. It's not rude. God is not any of these things to us. God doesn't seek His own advantage. He's not irritable. He doesn't keep, and I love this one, He does not keep any records of our wrongs. When we have asked for His forgiveness, the past is gone. Thank God for that. That is the path that He leads us on. Because anything else, when we want to be impatient and unkind, and we want to be jealous of what other people have and keep it from them because we don't have it, or if we're arrogant in what we do and we hold every record of wrong that's ever happened to us in the past, and here it says it's happy with injustice. Some of us, this guy, whatever, or this girl, you got what you deserve. I don't know, it's so many other things. It's happy in the truth. Love puts up with all things. Let me give you the good news is that God is willing to put up with you in all your mess. Because it says love will put up with all things. God is willing and He can put up with you. Love trusts in all things. God trusts that you will make the right choice one day. Love hopes in all things. The same way God hopes that you would choose correctly and choose wisely to love Him. And this one, God, love endures all things. He will endure all things. No matter how winding the road gets, no matter how up and down, no matter how scary or lonely that road might be, you can trust God that in the end, you're going to make it. And so there's so many things that could, different paths and ways that could grab our attention. But I want all of us to stop and think, look, regardless of everyone else, all we can control is you. So let's bow our heads, and I want you to think and listen to God saying to you, you're at a crossroads. Look. Stand at the crossroads and look. Look at your life. Look at where you're going. Now look at me. Look where I'm going. This is where I want to take you. In Jeremiah, he is so strong with the people, saying, you guys are ridiculous. You guys are corrupt. You guys are acting so foolishly. Why are you putting up with this? Why? You guys are killing yourselves. And he just lays it all out. And then he finishes Jeremiah saying, look, I have a way for you. I am drawing you with my loving kindness. I have a way for you. Plans for you. For better, not for worse. I have a path for you to follow. This crossroads that we're on today, honestly, you have this crossroad every day. And sometimes you face it daily. Some of us face it almost minute by minute. Of which way will I go? Will I respond to God's way and surrender? Really, that's how you respond. You respond with surrender. You trust in Him. Or will you react and follow your flesh? In every situation that happens, when somebody wrongs you, when someone does something to you, that's your crossroads. Will you respond to God's call to say, look, trust me, let me show you the way? Or will you react and fall away? In the book of Jeremiah, let me show you what the path looks like. I said the path is love, right? Well, in Jeremiah, he says, to his exiled people that have been captured and slaves, he says, pray for your oppressors. Love your slave masters, is what he's telling them to do. Love them. Pray for them. Bless them. Build families. Make plans. Build houses. Don't hold it against them. Trust me, and I'll get you out of this. But you have to trust me. This is a journey. And don't feel overwhelmed if you can't get it right, because that's not what it's about. Yet, don't be ashamed of the direction you're going. God is calling you, calling all of us to put things in a proper perspective. Thank you, Lord, that trust in you, you don't leave us empty-handed. That when you say, ask me, and I'll show you the way, you don't leave us empty-handed, Lord, but you give us something. You give us peace. You make us whole. Knowing that no matter what is going on, no matter what has happened, no matter what will happen, I have the peace, Lord, that you will endure, and that we will endure with you, and that we will make it through. Thank God for that peace. And if you don't know that peace, ask for it now. Because he says, ask me and I'll give it to you. If you don't have that peace in your heart right now, if you don't have a peace just being alone with yourself, forgive yourself and just receive it. God's waiting. Choose life. Choose him. Well, thank you so much, God, for not only pointing us to the ancient path, but God, paving that path with your blood on the cross. Thank you that you charted that course out for us, Lord. Thank you for making a way for us, Lord, to find true peace. Here in a world that is hopeless, in a world that is longing for peace and yet frustrated because they can't find it outside of you. God, thank you that we have. We acknowledge you, Lord. I acknowledge you as King over my life. I receive, Lord, your forgiveness for what you've done for me, Jesus, on the cross, knowing that I could not have done it. Left alone, Lord, I would be guilty, and I would be sentenced to be forever separated from you. But God, thank you, Lord, that the judge in heaven will, that you, Lord, will look at me and declare me not guilty because of what you've done for me on the cross. Thank you for the freedom, Lord, that you've given us, that you earned for us on the cross. In Jesus' name. Amen.